Next topic, the Dallas Cowboys. A four-letter word around here. Hey, you either love them or hate them. I think more people hate them. Johnny, in my opinion, the greatest game you ever played in the NFL was against the Cowboys in 1970. It was the first year of Monday Night Football. Dandy Don Meredith was in the booth, Howard Cosell, Keith Jackson. You're a Texas boy, you're playing in Dallas. You scored 3 touchdowns. They beat the Cowboys 38-0 on national TV. The Cowboys went on to play in the Super Bowl that year.
What happened last night?
That's right. What are your thoughts of that game?
As I see it, and I see it clip from it from time to time, it was just one of those nights. They called my name. We were running the football, making yards. Everything was clicking, and as it turns out, they had. I can't remember exactly how many yards they had from a rushing standpoint, but it was just a great game for an individual night. That you lay awake at night trying to think about how you're going to do certain things against a certain opponent. Well, everything that I think Jim Hart called our offensive line, they were just moving people out of the way, and I saw the hole, and I was just doing what I was supposed to do, run the ball, gain yards and
punt return,
and also as a pass reception. So I had 3 touchdowns, and I didn't realize it, but it was from 3 different varieties, from a rush to a pass to punt return.
So Dandy Don Meredith, for those of you who know, that was his first year in the booth, and he was a longtime Dallas Cowboy quarterback, and he was beside himself the entire game. And the game is on YouTube. Google YouTube, and you'll see. You can watch the whole game. You can watch a condensed version of the game, and it's funny. It's funny to listen to.
Well, the thing about it is that they thought I was washed up because I had gotten my knee hurt the second year. First year I had a rookie of the year. The second year I got hurt the 13th ball game. 68, I came back, moved from a running back, so to speak, to a fullback position, which is, as you know, fullback generally is a blocking back. And I really loved the game of football. I mean, it was just a chess match that you have going back and forth and trying to gather yards that they were trying to, keep us from marching down the field.
Still considered one of the greatest St. Louis football Cardinal victories. The entire time you guys were here, people still talk.
Yeah, the only problem is that we shut them out that night. They went on to win the Super Bowl.
So Mel, you had your biggest games against the Cowboys. In your career, you scored 14 touchdowns and averaged over 21 yards a catch against Dallas. Tell me, I know you got a couple. I know you're a huge Harvey Martin fan. Tell me a couple of stories about playing against the Cowboys.
We played Dallas at Busch Stadium, and boy, they were happy. Trolley Waters, Cliff Harris, Benny Bournes, Aaron Kyle. They were.
Jackie Spitz wins.
What?
Jackie Spitz wins.
No, yeah, his buddies. But anyway, they were running at me on one play, and Jim Hart threw a pass in the end zone, and I kind of backed out because they collided. The ball bounced up, I caught it in the end zone for a touchdown, and as they were laying there, I took the ball over and I spiked it. And Tom Landry started running down the sidelines, unsportsmanlike conduct. I said, shut up! And take your hat off of my house, right? We're playing Dallas on Thanksgiving Day in Dallas, and as we're coming out of the tunnel, they had all these pictures of a turkey and my picture inside. And it says, stop this turkey, do not let him score. So Jimmy threw me a slant, and I scored a touchdown. And Harvey Martin came over and shoved me, and the words that he told me I can't repeat. And he said he was gonna break my effing nose, and I'm standing there looking at him, the ref was right here, and I looked over at the bench, and Dover was the first one to stand up, then Tom Banks, then Bob Young, and I spiked the Bob, went crazy. And it was love, it was a hate relationship, I guess, between Dallas, because they were America's team, and we just loved to kick their butts. And we had, one year we had these shirts made, I think on TV, it said Cowboys eat bird leg. But you know, it was SH. Some guy made some shirts and made $200,000 off of that. Just playing against them, you know, was exciting all the time because they got away with a lot of stuff. I mean, they should have had some penalties called on them in the end zone. I think Jackie got hit, and JB came before the ball got there, and the referees looked the other way. Cliff Harris and I always had confrontations. And God, he spit on me one time, right? And so I turned my back, and I don't know who touched me, but I turned around and slapped him when I hit the ref. And I knocked his hat off. He said, "Gray, you crazy!" I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that." But I couldn't stand those guys. Like, Coriel told us to hate everybody that we played against. And it was hard.
So Jackie, you called it your greatest play at the time. 1974, okay, Don Coryell's second year for the Cardinals. You guys haven't beaten the Cowboys since the Johnny Roland 3-touchdown game in 1970, so it's been 4 seasons. And Dallas comes into town, you guys are 4-0, and everybody was kind of thinking, are these guys for real? You know, they had 3 seasons in a row where you won 4 games, 4-9-1, right? And you guys beat the Cowboys, but you caught a pass just before halftime across the middle from Jim Hart, and you ran over about 5 Cowboys. Broke 5 or 6 tackles, ran over some Cowboys, scored a touchdown. You guys won by 3 points, and you called it your greatest play. And again, if you Google that play, it's all over the internet. You can watch it. But Don Coryell was the head coach, and he came in the season before, and Mel, you played for him. Johnny may not have been a big fan because Don Coryell cut Johnny before the season started in 1973. They signed Jim Otis, and Jim Otis broke Johnny's Cardinal rushing record a few years later too. So Don Coryell, you've told stories about Don Coryell over the years and the difference between him and Bob Holloway, the previous coach, and what he brought to the Cardinals. You know, a change of attitude and the unique type of brand of football. Tell us a little bit about Don Coryell. I mean, he's finally got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he'll be inducted this summer in Canton.
Yeah, he should be in there. I don't know, when he came, it was into my 10th year when Coryell showed up. And he brought with him Hamilton and Gibbs and those guys, and they really had, obviously, a tremendous amount to our team at that time because of their expertise, and they went on to do great things. But yeah, it's at that time, we were all trying to figure out what was going to be going on with Coryell. And I remember when we had a meeting room, we had to all get together to interview him. We were all kind of scratching our heads and wondering what was going to be going on. And but I remember Coryell was one of those guys that in our game, you know, you like to see people that are excited about and get into the game or whatever. And when it's a head coach, you know, it's even more exciting for us. At least we say, well, this guy's going to be, he's like one of us. He's just about as nutty as we are. And but Don, it took so much of him to do that. I mean, and he really. And the reason I say that is because at the end of the time that I was there, and as he was, when I retired and then he retired, I think he moved out, went out west the next year. But when he first got there, I mean, you catch a pass downfield in practice or something, Mel can remember, the guy run downfield, he'd be, and man, that's the way to go, and we go kick their ass, you know, whatever, he'd walk it back to the fellow, and then, but he was just all into it. And so you contrast that to when last year I was there, he was really not that enthusiastic that he was. He had wore himself out, and I think, at least that's the way I sort of saw it, but he was a guy that the players knew, no matter what. The players knew that he was completely giving as much of himself as he could to be able to make it successful for us in the game. And that's what in the meetings before, the night before, and that sort of thing, he would always get up and say something, and when he did, he would be so emotional that you had almost just, in fact, we had a couple of defensive coaches. I remember he'd get up and he'd start getting really excited, and Corey would get real excited getting into the game and talking about it and all that. These guys would just turn around and look the other way. They couldn't, it was like they were somewhat embarrassed by what he was doing as a coach. But we didn't mind that. I mean, he was tell us he was really into the game. He was doing his best, no matter what it was, to help us win. And so that's what I remember about him, is that he's a guy that gave all of himself to the game as much as he knew how to do it. And then he gathered around some great guys around him that really propelled us into a pretty good time when he was there.